Congrats on the win, but is Chicago too good right now? The only standings and the only scoreboard the Chicago Bears should care about at all is the top 10 draft picks. They got 2 picks, but now Chicago's got 3 wins. So they're out of the Drake May, Caleb Williams sweepstakes. And let's be honest, Chicago has pieces. They have a very good tight end, a very good wide receiver, a very good tackle. In fact, I'd argue 2 capable tackles, a very top young defensive lineman, an interesting secondary. They need a quarterback and a head coach. There are a lot of versions of bad in this league. A lot of versions of bad in this league. The Giants, I like their coach. Their quarterback bad. Arizona, I like their quarterback. Their roster bad. Chicago's leadership bad. The owner, oldest and one of the poorest in the sport. Head coach, overwhelmed. Quarterback, average and hurt too much. But if they got Ben Johnson, a Drake May, it'd be kind of interesting. I mean, why is Houston winning? I like D'Amico Ryans because C.J. Stroud can play. And he was a B to B plus. He was a Jared Goff comp. Drake May and Caleb Williams are higher comps. And they'll probably hire an offensive coach. So Chicago's not going to end up with just their 3 wins. Go look at their schedule this morning. They end the season hosting Arizona, Atlanta, and then they play Green Bay. Their defense is now playing better. Their defense is healthy. Their secondary is good. I even like their running backs. They're 3-7. They're going to win a game or 2 to go 4-5-7. The New York Giants are not. What they need is for Carolina to be awful. The good news, they're 1-8 and are awful. But Carolina's in a terrible division. They play Tampa at home, Green Bay at home, Atlanta at home, Tampa Bay again. They beat Houston, so they can win a couple of these games. I mean, seriously, they beat Houston. So my takeaway is Chicago last night, they've got pieces. If you would have given them C.J. Stroud last night at quarterback, Chicago wins by 24, 28, 30 points. They just need a quarterback and a coach. I'd prefer a new front office guy, and I'd prefer a younger, more spry, vibrant owner, but that's not going to happen. So if Carolina wins just 2 more games in that bad division with bad teams often at home, then Chicago isn't getting Caleb or Drake May. The only way they could get one of them is a bidding war with 7 other teams to get to that number 2 spot. So all that draft capital you got, right, for the Bryce Young pick, you'd have to surrender all of it. So part of what could make Chicago great is a new young offensive coach, a star quarterback with draft picks. So he's not standing around. You want him to have another receiver, a great center, free agent space. So you say to yourself, well, that game was boring. Maybe, but the Chicago element to that game is fascinating. Because I think Chicago's got some pieces. You can argue on that, but they got 3 wins now. Look at their schedule. If Justin Fields comes back, they're not going 3-14. They're going to win another game, probably 2, potentially 3. Then you're out. You have to get into a bidding war. You have to pray Carolina remains awful. And I don't think Carolina's going to win a lot, but go look at Carolina's schedule. It's the worst division in football. Bad teams at Carolina, where they already beat Houston. So this is much more interesting than you think, because I don't think Chicago is hopeless. They have a leadership void. There's all sorts of bads in the NFL. The roster today in Chicago is better than 2 years ago. The receivers are better. The secondary is better. They've got tackles that can play. They just got Montez Sweat. They've got a legitimate front 5 player. Just need the quarterback. I've been really hyped up on the Buffalo Bills for years. And I think I've just overvalued their talent because I like Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. But even the Von Miller acquisition, I thought, it's that much money now? So the Buffalo Bills had a players-only meeting for the offense. In the history of player-only meetings, one thing happens. It works briefly, but the coach is eventually fired, or it doesn't work at all, and the coach is eventually fired. Bill Parcells, Jimmy Johnson, Bill Walsh, Vince Lombardi, Don Shula, Andy Reid, not a lot of player-only meetings. The other thing you hear when the coach is in trouble is the players start saying stuff like, hey, it's not on the coaches. We got to do better. Josh Allen yesterday, it's not Ken Dorsey. We've got to do better. Ken Dorsey is not Brian Daboll. So 3 things are very, very clear. Is that Ken Dorsey may be more than capable, but Brian Daboll is a high-end coordinator, and Dorsey's not Daboll. That doesn't mean Dorsey's not capable. Number 2 is Sean McDermott's personality, which leans toward rigid, can be very tough on assistants. That's inarguable. And the other thing we have to be honest about is that this team's had brutal injuries to defense. They've lost a very good safety, their top corner, their top linebacker, one of their top defensive tackles. This is a defensive culture with Josh Allen, and the defense isn't as good. So when you see the headline, players-only meeting, that's like getting a text from your boss, hey, swing by before you leave the building today. Or from your wife, we need to talk. Those are the 3 headlines or text you never want to get. Your wife says we need to talk. Your boss says, swing by the office. And then once you do, he said, close the door. And players-only meeting, it's bad. Now you're getting players. It's not the coaches. When you lose 4 or 5 guys from one side of the ball, and they're all very good, and you've already got limitations on the other side of the ball outside of one good receiver and a star quarterback, Buffalo's not that good. They're good. At home, they can be tough. But this week they face Denver, offensive coach, capable quarterback, improving defense, run game off a bye. Would you be shocked if Denver beat Buffalo? I would not. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.